Hello, I don't know if that was my internet or that was the intro that kind of skipped a bit there, but I think it might have been my internet. Hello and welcome to the Rangers Women's Football Show. For all you Rabble members out there, a bit of a later one tonight because obviously we had the quiz. Normally, obviously, it wouldn't quite be 10 o'clock at night, but alas, here we are to cover the Old Firm. That me, Brian, and Wolf were all at last night. For those of you watching just now, you probably watched the quiz, so you've heard from Brian. So I'll go to Wolf first as he takes a big swig of juice or water. Wolf, how are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, Martin. Thanks for this time on a Sunday night. Yeah, I'm okay. It was a wee bit disappointing with the result yesterday, but yeah, that aside, yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
Is anybody liking my snazzy new background?
It's nice.
No. I don't have a green screen, so it keeps shaking at my head. But there we go. So yes, Brian, we are here obviously to talk about the women's team.
Yep.
More so, obviously, the game yesterday. Before we get into the game and how it panned out and certain decisions by the Rangers management team, the Rangers players and lineswomen, which were quite poor, if we're going to be nice. The feeling getting into the game, Brian, obviously, we dropped points at Glasgow City the week previous.
Yep.
We spoke, me, you, and Wolf spoke quite a bit of the game yesterday about how it was imperative that we got the win to try and keep tabs with Glasgow City, because out with Rangers, Celtic, and Glasgow City, it's like, well, let's just say that we should win all the games. So going into the game, were you confident?
In some respects, I was. The only thing I was worried about was their attacking threat. I think both their strikers were in double figures for the season, so their obvious threat was up front. Well, clearly, both are scoring lots of goals. As I say, both in double figures. So that was where the obvious threat was coming from, not the wings or midfield. It was obviously going to be the strike force. And a few times they tried to do the old, over the top of the defence, and there's a couple of times it nearly came off. So that was the big threat for me. As I say, there was a couple of times that they nearly pulled it off, and we nearly got caught out, but thankfully we recovered. And yeah, that was my only worry going into the game, was their sort of pace up front. That was, as I say, otherwise I was quite confident. But yeah, that was my major concern, was their pace up front. Simple as that.
Yeah, should just say good evening to Caroline. A bit like Brian, she's on double duty. She watched the quiz and now she's here to watch the member show. Thank you very much, Caroline. Channel legend, the man in the bath, John Batchelor. John, good evening. Welcome. Matt Gunner's asking what was the score. It was indeed nothing each.
Yeah.
We'll get into the nitty-gritty of the game and why it finished nothing each in a wee bit. And again, there you go, channel legend. Straight away, John Batchelor, Super Chat 449, John, much appreciated as ever. Kind of the same thing to you then, Wolf, going into the game. Look, we know in the women's game in Scotland, there is only really 3 teams. Let's be realistic, 2 teams. In Rangers and Glasgow City. So I'm guessing, like with every game I speak to you about, you were confident?
Yeah, I was fairly confident going into the game. It was disappointing that we didn't beat Glasgow City last week in the game that Brian was at. I unfortunately couldn't get to, but I watched it on BBC Alba, which is always entertaining to watch. The Glasgow City game. When we were done, when they got a penalty, that was never a penalty. But we spoke about that last week, which will be in the archive if anybody hasn't watched that show. Go back and get a bit of that. But yeah, I was quite confident when I saw the team lineup. I was a bit concerned about where our attacking threat was coming from, because we only appeared to have one striker, and it meant the midfield would have to sort of come through and support the striker up the middle. And that's exactly how it turned out. I did think we would beat them. I honestly did think we'd beat them. Like Brian, I was a bit worried about their pace through the middle. because I don't particularly rate our two centre halves, although one of them was given man of the match, I'm not quite sure. Or player of the match, I'm not quite sure how they go about. But no, I think that's the weakest part of our team at the moment. But yeah, I mean, going into the game, I was fairly confident, and yeah, unfortunately, it was misplaced confidence.
Well, yes and no, Brian, for the misplaced confidence. Obviously, misplaced confidence because we didn't win. But for large spells of that game, Rangers were in control. We had the majority of the possession. We probably created more chances, although maybe one or two clear cut, but out with that, it was kind of half chances, but we created more. And like Will said, look, that pace that was evident that was Celtic's only route to goal was a simple lob over the top, which they nearly got a couple of times. But I felt in general the Rangers defence did okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think we discussed last night at the game. I think Celtic were quite comfortable or quite willing to give Rangers the ball and let us have a lot of the territory. I think their game plan was to sit in, nick a ball, and catch us in the break. I mean, I don't remember, as you say, many times where we were besieged and we were under like serious pressure for periods, long periods. It certainly wasn't that. It was maybe 5 minutes at the most for any one period where we were under pressure. No, but for me, they were just quite happy soaking up the pressure and trying to hit us in the break. We had lots of the ball. It just seemed to be we had the ball, but that killer pass, that killer sort of through ball just wasn't there that night. And it was just, it was, as I say, the possession stats were probably out of the sky for us, but the bottom line is the top left score was still 0-0. So unless you get a 1 on the board, I'm afraid it's always going to be a draw.
Actually, before we get further into the game, Wolf, we should probably just highlight, obviously, the game was at Broadwood. It was at Clyde Stadium. Me and Brian had a wee bit of trouble with traffic trying to get in, but we eventually got there. It was a decent crowd, Wolf. We were told that the main stand was sold out. So obviously I had to buy tickets for the south stand. The main stand was nowhere near sold out, but I think we do have to praise the fact that my ticket cost £3 for the south stand. For a women's game, I think it's fantastic, and I believe it was £8 for the main stand. I think, unless you were a season ticket holder.
No, it was £3 across the board.
Was it?
All the tickets were
£1 for season ticket.
£1 for season ticket holders or My Gears members, and also for children or juveniles and concessions. So the maximum ticket price was £3, which is fantastic, absolutely brilliant. But if you were a My Gears member, it was only £1. You're right, there was loads and loads of spaces in the main stand. I think possibly the tickets were sold, but there was a lot of or given away, because I know they were giving tickets away to local schools and sort of football clubs and things like that. And I mean, there was a woman behind me in the queue when I was going to pick my tickets up because obviously because of the postal strike they didn't post them out after Wednesday. So there was loads of folk picking them up. And the woman behind me, she was from the Cumbernauld Colts, and she'd done a club-wide Who Wants to Go, and she was picking up 70 or 80 tickets.
Oofed. And
she reckoned that she'd have at least 20 spare because people that said they were going to go didn't go. So that's only one club. So if you've got half a dozen clubs like that, there's 100 unused tickets straight away. You know what I mean? So that's possibly part of the reason. But I mean, yeah, over 3,000 folk at a women's game in Scotland is decent. But given the fact that there's no first team football just now, it was a Saturday tea time. It's in a decent stadium that's fairly easily accessible. I was very, very disappointed in the crowd, to be perfectly honest with you. From my own personal point of view, very, very disappointed in the crowd. I was expecting... I think if they moved that game to Ibrox, they'd have got 3 times that. That's just my own personal opinion.
They would have, Brian. If they'd moved it to Ibrox, no doubt they would have got more. But at the same time, and me and you actually spoke about this, Brian, on the way out, even if they had got 6,000 or 7,000 at Ibrox, yes, obviously more money, more revenue, but there wouldn't have been much of an atmosphere, I don't think. No. I think, yeah, albeit 3,500 in a 10,000 seater stadium, the atmosphere was decent. It was good. But if you move that to Ibrox, yeah, you've got maybe a bit of a financial reward, but it would have killed the atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, as we experienced last night, the main stand. Yeah, full. It certainly wasn't full, but most seats over the piece, maybe 3/4 of the seats were taken in the main stand. And then obviously there was the overspill in the south stand. As you say, if they moved that to Ibrox, for example, it would have been a similar atmosphere, Wolf, to probably the Benfica game, wouldn't it? You know,
Yeah,
that was about
what
a
I think.
3,000 crowd, wasn't it?
Yeah, what was noticeable about its absence yesterday was the Union Bears. They were noticeable by their absence yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, that
Yeah.
Benfica game, they were behind the goal and they made a hell of a lot of atmosphere.
Yeah,
I watched the Edinburgh Derby this afternoon between Hibs and Hearts at Easter Road because the missus was watching it, and the Hibs ultras were in behind the goal. They didn't really do a lot, but they were there. You know, the Union Bears, at least at that Benfica game, they made a bit of atmosphere.
yeah.
From memory, I'm pretty sure they were in the Broomloan at the Aberdeen game last year
Right
as
behind the
well.
goals.
I'm fairly sure,
Yep.
right behind the goal. Now I know they do that to make a point because that's where they want to move to for the first team.
Yeah.
And it's to make a point like they can create atmosphere. But I think it would have created more of an atmosphere had they been there last night. But they weren't, and that's one of those things. But what really, really disappointed me last night, the turnout from Celtic was absolutely abysmal.
Oh, there was
That
only
stand
about
opposite
100,
us,
wasn't
there was what, a couple of. I mean, was there even 100? I discussed this with Carol earlier. She says, did they even have 50? I think they
Yeah,
had about
they had
100.
more than 50. They definitely had more
Yeah.
than 50.
I think they had about 100, which when you consider it's an Old Firm game, right? It's a big game. It's a big game for them because they've had the Indian sign over us somewhat in the last few years, you know, and it was pennies to get in. You know what I mean? I'd like to think that at the return fixture when we go to Airdrie because they play their games at Airdrie, I'd like to think that we would have at least a 4-figure Rangers turnout when we play them at Airdrie, even if it's on a Sunday afternoon. I just thought overall the crowd really disappointed me, and particularly when you consider going back to that Edinburgh Derby, there was more than double that at Easter Road today. There was about 7,500 at Easter Road today.
Yeah.
Although they did say yesterday they'd sold 12,000 tickets, but.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, if you look at the World Cup, then they're selling 3,000 or 4,000 seats more than what's actually the stadium capacity. So you don't always go by what people tell you that they've sold. But Brian, does that kind of just show you where women's football is at the moment? Then, look, if women's football isn't for everybody, I understand that. I get it. People criticise it, and I understand the criticisms. And me and Brian, we actually spoke about this when they went to the game. Is there anything that they could do possibly to change the women's game slightly? But of course, the minute that you try and make those suggestions, you're deemed a sexist, or you're saying that women can't compete at the same level as men, etc. But for an Old Firm game, and maybe let's be nice and say there was 4,000 there yesterday, right? Let's just round it up to 4,000. For an Old Firm game, like Wolf says, tea time kickoff at Broadwood. It's accessible. Is that just where women's football is? That's the biggest crowd you're going to get?
I think if you played that game 5 years ago, you wouldn't have got barely 100 or a couple hundred at most. It's going to be one of these sports that's going to be a slow burner for a lot of people. I think folk will catch on eventually and sort of appreciate it for how it is. Comparing it to the men, I think even the women footballers that play at the top level even say themselves, please don't compare us to the men because it's night and you can't. And I think that's how you should treat it. You should treat it as a completely different sort of sport. They're obviously clearly going to be slower and not as quick as the men, just for sheer physicalities, etc. So, but I mean. There was a couple of times last night you seen Brogan Hay doing, spin,
definitely come on to Brogan.
Yeah, she did a couple of good tricks. The skill level is there. It's just about them showcasing
Brian,
it.
Yeah, and I'll let Wolf come in on this as well. The skill level is there, Brian.
Yeah.
For a set amount of women footballers.
Yes.
I think it's the difference between the standard women footballer or poor women footballer to the women footballer who's very, very good. There's a massive, massive gap. It's almost like the top women footballer, let's just say, is a Leo Messi, but that's at Rangers, and an Aberdeen player or whatever is like a Conference.
Yeah.
You know, there's such a disparity, I think, in quality between good women players and bad. Would you go along with that, Wolf?
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I mean the good players are good and the bad players are poor, but that's the same. That's the same at every level. I mean, you've got.
I think there's a bigger gap in the women's game, Wolf, than what there is in the
There is
men's.
a bigger gap. I mean, you look at, but then if you look at it, right, is it really that much bigger? Because in the Scottish women's game, as we said at the start, as we say every week, right, say all the time, there's Rangers, there's Glasgow City, and there's Celtic, and there's everybody else, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In the men's game, there's Rangers, Celtic, then there's everybody else. So
Yeah,
there's three teams competing at the top.
But Wolf, on that, right, I know Celtic recently beat, was it Dundee United 9-0, right? But that doesn't happen every week. That happens almost nearly every week in the women's game.
Yeah, it does, because the gulf between the top three clubs and the rest. I mean, for example, with the greatest respect for them, Glasgow women, who are a different club from Glasgow City, because people sometimes get them a bit confused that they're the same club. Glasgow women, it's their first time in the big league. They came up last season with Dundee United, and they're dreadful. I mean, but they're in their infancy. They're new to it all. You know, they regularly take a scud. I mean, Rangers beat them, I think, was it 11 or 12 in the first game of the season? You know what I mean?
I was waiting to say, Wolf, just to say, I think Glasgow's women got promoted because of the rejig of the league. So I don't think they were due to be in the league this year, were they?
No, they weren't. No, it's because they added two teams to the league. Yeah, because they added two teams to the league. Because they brought them and Dundee United up and didn't relegate anybody. Because Hearts should have gone down because Hearts finished bottom of the league. But they're actually doing okay. As Carol keeps telling me, they're the best of the rest at the moment. So they're doing okay because they put some money into it. It seems that the clubs who are prepared to put money into their women's system, they're getting a return on it because the team's actually getting better. But as you say, Martin, the good players are good, but the rest of them are fairly. I mean, what's noticeable that Rangers, Celtic, and Glasgow City, there's a fair number of foreign players in the side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whereas the rest of them have all got Scottish players, and that to me tells its own story because the good Scottish players don't play in Scotland. The really good Scottish players don't play in Scotland or have come back to play in Scotland. You know, you've got.
Who's the girl, Wolf, that plays at Real Madrid?
Caroline Weir.
Said that without moving my lips. Look at that. Yeah, Caroline Weir. You've got, you've got her at Real Madrid. You've got one or two that playing over in America because ladies' games massive in America. You know, You've got Erin Cuthbert ripping it up at Chelsea, who came through the Rangers youth system. You know, and the reason that Kim Little, she was Rachel Corsie. You know, the reason these women didn't stay in Scotland is the money's not there. I mean,
can I just interrupt you and say I've accidentally made this public on YouTube. It's not just members. So I apologise to the members. This was supposed to be a members-only show, but as I am a dumpling, I have made it public on YouTube. So we'll just leave it public on YouTube. But obviously going forward, the Rangers Women's Show is a members-only show. And the only reason I knew that is because a certain Mr. Curry Muncher popped up in the comments. So good evening, Curry. I hope you're well.
Good evening, Curry.
But yeah, my apologies, Wolf. I just had to get that mentioned.
You know, like I've seen, Martin, I mean, in the last 2 or 3 years, Rangers have gone, fully professional.
Stay right where you are.
Rangers have gone fully professional. Celtic have gone fully professional. I think Glasgow City are more or less fully professional. Hearts have gone sort of hybrid professional. I think Hibs are the same. So they're putting money at it, and they're the 5 best teams in the league, and they've got players there that are decent. And that's only in the last, as Brian says, it's going to be a slow burner. It's only in the last 2 or 3 years since they've started putting money into it, but they need to continue to do that. And for me to continue to do it, they really need to start getting crowds. And it's the age-old problem that it's not so much happened this year, but the fixture scheduling is a joke. Because they tend to schedule them against first team games or against big English games that are on the telly that people are going to rather go and watch. And if I can just jump on a comment there I saw going through from Stephen Gillespie saying his niece is desperate to watch a few of the women's games. Next game is next Sunday at Petershill against Glasgow Women. which Rangers should win comfortably. But the following week, so 2 weeks today, we've got the Women's League Cup final against Hibs at Tynecastle. That'd be a great game to take in East to Stephen.
Yeah.
Tickets are available for that through the Hearts website. They're only they're £8 or something like that. They're not that expensive. I'm going to that. I think Brian's going to that as well.
I have contacted Rangers to see about press access as well.
We may or may not be covering it with press access, but we'll be going regardless. So that's the next couple of fixtures. But yeah, I mean the other thing as well go on that cup final, right? To me, they're not even trying to promote it particularly because they're only opening at the moment. Certainly, they're only opening the main stand at Tynecastle, and they're giving us three. They're basically giving us 3 sections each. Now the main stand at Tynecastle's not that big. I mean, the whole ground only holds 20,000. So what are they looking at? Maybe 2,500, 3,000 at one of the prestigious cup finals, and it's live on Sky. You know what I mean? They should be doing more to try and
do you know what, about that as well? And this isn't just the women's game or whatever. See, when it's going to be a cup final, like for example, at a Johnston's Paint Trophy or something like that, right? That they always play at Wembley for some unknown reason. Put the fans where the camera's going to be. The camera's never on the main stand.
They pointed towards the main stand where the fans are going to be at Hearts.
Do they? Is that where the camera? They do at Hearts, yeah. The camera's at Hearts. Yeah.
But point the camera where the fans are going to be.
I actually made that very point to my missus this afternoon when we were watching that Edinburgh derby, because the cameras at Easter Road are in the main stand pointing at the stupid monstrosity of a thing they've got opposite it, and you could actually read the letters HFC in the middle of it. That's how unpopulated it was. Whereas the main stand seemed quite full. So yeah, I mean, put fans where the camera can actually see the people.
Where it's predominantly going to be,
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because that way it looks busy. The rest of the ground might be empty, but at least it looks a bit busy. It's like when you go to Motherwell and you see like Kilmarnock at Motherwell in the men's game, and they've put the away fans in the top tier of that stand.
Yeah.
What's the point? You can't see them. You know what I mean? It just looks ridiculous.
It's mental. Right, okay, let's get back to the game. Not a great deal to talk about. Obviously, there's nothing to talk about in terms of goals because there was none. There wasn't exactly, Brian, any outstandingly great chances, I don't think, especially in the first half. For me, Brian, the standout player, the only really standout player for me was Brogan Hay. I thought she was trying to make things happen. Maybe not as often as what she should have. But she was the only one for me that got pass marks.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly from the starting lineup, certainly it's in the forward areas, it's a reoccurring theme that Brogan's the sort of outlet that you think is going to be a bit of a damage caused to the opposing defence. She's got pace to burn. She has lots of skills. She gets past players quite easily. As you say, she's the one sort of outlet that Rangers have definitely got that they can exploit, and she at least when she gets the ball, she faces up the defender and just attacks the fullback. She's not scared to take her on inside or out. She was clearly the only sort of opposing striker or sort of forward player yesterday that was willing to go beyond the fullback. I think latterly, when Lizzie Arnott came on late on, she was doing the opposite on the other side, but of course Brogan Hay was off the park by then. So yeah, Brogan was certainly the outlet for Rangers pretty much first half and second half. I'd like to see Lizzie and Brogan starting at the same time and attacking both wings, because I think that would be pretty potent, because they both just face up both fullbacks and are not scared to take them on. So that's that. Yeah, you're totally right. Brogan was the only sort of outlet for the Rangers attack in the first half, certainly. Second half,
we were all at the game, I should say, Curry. But yeah, the pitch, well, I don't think can be blamed for much. It's a 4G pitch. Both teams need to deal with it. It wasn't a muddy grass pitch or anything like that. It was a pitch that the Rangers women are used to playing on because it's their home stadium. So the pitch might have looked terrible on the TV, but it was just your bog standard 4G pitch.
Yeah, it looked terrible on the stand as well. When we commented on it during the first half. The pitch looked absolutely awful, and I would say I don't know. I haven't heard there was one of the Celtic players got stretchered off towards the end. I don't know her name.
Yeah.
But it looked to all of us. It looked at all of us watching on that she got her studs stuck in the pitch, and I think her foot stopped and the rest of her body kept moving because it didn't look particularly clever. So you've got to blame the pitch for that. But it's the sort of pitch that the Rangers ladies are used to playing on it because it is their home pitch. But it doesn't look good. I mean, I'm not sure the last time that surface was relaid at Broadwood, but I think it should be overdue because it does. It looks horrendous. It looks better than Livingston's, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
But it still doesn't look very good. But the ball didn't seem to do anything unusual on it. It probably plays worse than it looks. It just looked, possibly because it was under the lights, it looked quite patchy in the edge of the box and things like that. But it's obviously just probably the way the lighting was on it. But yeah, I don't think it was a.
But I think Martin, we discussed ACLs either before the game or during the second half, and there was we were saying, certain styles of football boots with blades and all this is not conducive to be on AstroTurf.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's a lot of ACLs happening and bad injuries happening now, and a lot of it's because, as you said, the studs get stuck in the Astro and the body keeps going and it twists things, and there's so many injuries happening because of it.
Yeah, but there's no difference in injuries between grass and plastic pitches. There's absolutely zero difference in injuries.
Yeah.
It makes no difference. I don't like plastic pitches. I don't think they should be in any level of the game at all.
Yeah.
I understand why they're used, financial reasons, etc., etc. But the injury argument doesn't stack up because there's no difference.
Fair enough.
No, Brian, the footwear thing. The players know the surface they're playing on, so they should have the appropriate footwear for what they're playing on.
Should do.
But it was Brian, a horrendous injury, which at first Wolf didn't believe it was.
No, Wolf was very what's the word I'm looking for? Wasn't very.
I was giving her a hard time. I honestly,
he certainly wasn't convinced it was a legit injury. That's all I'll say.
I thought it was one of them. I'll lie down then because the referee won't book me because she committed the foul. But
yeah.
I mean, as you pointed out, a leg was pointing the wrong way, which we shouldn't laugh at. But I mean, it was
no laughing at the injury at all.
It was at first view it looked like she was just staying down because if I stay here, I might not get booked because it was kind of touch and go. Was it a yellow card? Was it not a yellow card? But then as she lay there, it became very evident that it was quite a bad one. And I wish her all the best. I hope she's okay.
Oh, she's listen, Brian, 100%. I was sitting there and I looked. And I don't know.
It was you.
I don't want to speculate. Wasn't it? I don't want to speculate on what the injury was. A leg didn't look great, O'Brien, and I don't care what team you play for. I don't want to see anybody because she looked in real pain.
Yeah, I must admit, I think it was you that clicked first that it was bad because I wasn't sure of really what she was down for. And then you sort of clicked and looked and says, "Look at her leg," and I was like, "What do you mean, look at her leg?" And he says, "Look at her left leg," and I was like, "What?" And the next thing is you say, the leg was clearly not lying the way it should. And I stopped looking then. I thought, as soon as I clicked that there was something not right, I couldn't look because I couldn't. I just don't like things like that. So, it clearly was a bad injury. And, nothing you like to see in the game. And as Wolf says, I wish her all the best. I hope it's not as bad as it looked for us. But, it certainly didn't look nice. And it was... Yeah, I couldn't look anymore because it looked that bad. So that kind of tells you how bad it could be.
Yeah, really, it did not look good. And like I say, we genuinely do hope that she's okay and that it was just a precaution. Well, for the first half, not a lot happened. The one thing that sticks in my head was Nicola Docherty had a long-range effort that the Celtic keeper done well to keep out. Nicola Docherty, who was surprisingly quiet, Wolf.
Yeah, she was, but it didn't help her that we were playing the ball down the other side. Yeah. I mean, she wasn't really involved in the play a lot. I mean, the amount of time she was free, free wide on the left, and there was just nobody putting the ball out there. We played the ball down the right hand side the whole time, and she just actually for about halfway through the second half, I actually forgot she was playing because the ball just didn't go
Yeah.
anywhere near her. And it wasn't for the one. I mean, she was making loads and loads of space, but nobody was putting the ball across to her. You know, and it's just one of those. It's just a frustrating day. I mean, it didn't help us. It was a bit like watching the men's first team, and the Celtic basically came with a point. And we're quite happy to leave with a point, and they sat in. I mean, it was very evident when we were attacking that they had 2 banks of 4, or a bank of 5 and a bank of 4, and one up front. You know, trying to, as Brian said at the start, trying to just punt the ball over the top and hope that the speed merchants at the front would catch it. And it is difficult to break down. And when you've only got Brogan Hay trying to take players on, and even she gave up after a while trying to take them on, because you can't try and beat them every time because they'll expect it. It is really difficult to break them down. I was fairly disappointed in the way Celtic set out, to be honest. They only sort of started attacking us by about half an hour to go because I think they fancied getting something from the game. But no, there wasn't really a lot happening in the first half.
Do you know what? You're right, and Brian, it's not something that we see very often when Rangers play Celtic. Celtic sitting in a low block. It was basically a 4. I know they had 2 up front, but at times it looked like a 5-4-1. Celtic were playing, and then it was just a case of Lisa Robertson, number 4, kind of defensive mid, just make a tackle, punt it up the park.
I mean, and she was very good at it. I might add, she had a good left foot in her, and every time she got the ball, she looked up and she was pinging it down the channels for, I think it was Jacinta and Larissa up front for them. So, and they were both lightning quick. And, you know, as you said, 9 times out of 10, we dealt with it okay, but there was just that one chance that it could have went wrong, and they were straight, you know, they had a one-on-one. So yeah, it was a clear and evident sort of tactic from Celtic to do that. And as I say, it could have went wrong once or twice for us, but thankfully through either a bad touch or an over touch, they didn't get control of the ball, and the goalkeeper dealt with it. So, but yeah, it was a very strange tactic to see, because you're obviously not used to seeing it in the men's game. And it was actually nice to see Rangers dominate. You know, watching a Rangers game with a team dominating the ball for a change. It was a pleasant surprise to see us attacking a lot. But yeah,
dominating the ball, Wolf. Yeah, but the slow, lethargic build-up play.
Yeah.
We're not really used to seeing that from this Rangers women's team, are we?
No, we're not. But as we keep referencing, we're usually playing against teams that we can pass around about, because the quality of players a lot better.
Even though we were playing a better team, they weren't. But we were a better team than them, and it still seemed as if all we wanted to do was a slow build-up. Pass, give it to Brogan, hope she does something. Oh, Brogan lost the ball, or she got past her woman, but nothing came yet. We'll keep going to Brogan, and we'll just slow pass and move. It really wasn't working.
I think for me, I think they're in our heads, because I mean, I mentioned, I commented yesterday towards the end of the game, as they started attacking us when they kind of fancied it a bit, that the game was beginning to remind me of I think it was the League Cup tie last season, because they put us out of both cups last year. We were unbeaten in the league, but they put us out of both cups. And I was at I think it was the League Cup game at the training centre, and we dominated them like we did yesterday, and then the nicked one right at the death. And we should have been out of sight that day. We should have been 5 or 6 up, and then they nicked it. And yesterday reminded me of that we completely dominated the play. They let us have as much of the ball as we wanted, and then they just stole one at the end. And I thought, here we go. You know, I just think mentally we don't want to go for it, because we've been stung so many times in the past by them. You know, I think they're in their head more than Glasgow City are, and Glasgow City are by far a better team than them.
Mm-hmm. I
think it's just a mentality thing. It's just, I mean, even the way the team set out, you know, just with one striker up front, try to flood the midfield. You know, we basically changed the way that we play because we were playing them. I think if we played the game that we normally play, we'd certainly made a lot more chances. I mean, it was for all we had lots of the ball. The keeper only made, well, that's shot you reference from
Well,
Nick Dock.
Nick had 2, one in the second
Yeah,
half as well.
Then she'd won in the second half. Apart from that, there wasn't really a lot of their keeper. They went the post and stuff like that. But apart from that, their keeper really didn't have a lot to do.
Can we
it's not as
talk
if it
about
were
keepers?
Pep on their keeper.
Can we talk about keepers?
When
I'll
you
let
want.
you both come in on this, but Brian, I'll go to you first because I think Wolf might have a. Well, we've been on for 35 minutes, so Wolf might be finished ranting about an hour. So the Rangers goalkeeper get a yellow card for what looked like a horrendous challenge, I must say, because I was sitting in the south stand at the time. So I'm at the other end of the pitch, and it looked as if she caught the Celtic player a belter on the way through. I was then sent a video about an hour after the game by both you and Wolf, which showed that it was a out of control swipe by the Rangers goalkeeper, but she was about 40 yards away from the Celtic player. So, Brian, can you explain to me why the Rangers goalkeeper got a yellow card for that? You need to come off mute.
Short answer, no. I really don't have an answer for you. From where we were sitting opposite the 18-yard box from where it happened, for all intents and purposes, it looked as though she caught her. I think Wolf will admit that. As we all looked at each other and thought, "Oh, is this a red?" Because there was a debate of whether it was last man or were the defenders going to sort of get the ball and clear it. There was even that we even had that debate at the time, thinking this could be even a red, let alone a yellow.
Yeah.
And then of course Wolf sent me that video last night, and I just sunk to my. I just thought, wow, that's so. It's not even close. It wasn't even. She was nowhere near kicking her, and she went down holding her leg, and I was like, oh god,
Well, to be fair, I don't think she was holding her leg particularly. She fell, but she didn't get up in a hurry. I mean, she wasn't lying there rolling about with her arm in the air, saying penalty, foul, red card, whatever. But I mean,
she made it look as though she caught her.
I absolutely, of course she did. Aye. Yeah. I mean, the lineswoman on our side would have a similar view to us. So that's one of the few things that she probably didn't get wrong. But the referee was in a great position. I mean, the referee standing looking straight at it. She must have been able to see there was daylight, unless she's booked her for the intent. Because there wasn't. I mean, if she'd caught her, she was wiping her clean out. She was going to wipe her clean out.
There you go.
Oh, okay. I spoke to Vicky Esson after the game, and she said the ref apologised for carding her when she saw the replay. Fair enough.
But I'd like to know what the referee thought she saw, because she had great view of it. As I say, the assistant in front of us would have had a similar view to us, and would have probably thought what we thought. I mean, Carl was sitting just along from us, and she probably thought the same as we did.
Yeah,
and I'm sure she'll tell us in the comments what she thought.
Well, do you know something else? Well, you've reminded me. One thing I will say, and we're not on here to start criticising referees and lineswomen and stuff like that, because I don't like doing that. But I do have to point out that the lineswomen on our side of the main stand made no decisions, went along with the referee when the referee was miles away from play, just did not seem to take any responsibility for the role that she was in. Yeah,
but you've got to. I mean, the way I look, I give officials, particularly assistant referees at that level. Same with the B team and the youth team and stuff like that. These referees are. These referees are always going to be poorer than what we've got at men's first team level, at SPFL level.
I don't know.
And the referees at SPFL levels are dreadful. The men's at the SPFL level are dreadful. So you can't expect the ones further down the pyramid to be any good. But no, you're right. That assistant, she gave nothing. She gave absolutely nothing. She looked. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be at all surprised if that's the biggest game she's ever taken part in. Probably the biggest crowd she's ever officiated in front of. I don't know, because I don't know anything about her. But yeah, she wasn't the best.
No,
they were just very, very fortunate.
No,
they were just very fortunate. There was nothing in the game. There was no real needle in the game. There was nothing contentious really.
No,
because if it got out of control, I think if the game had got out of control, I think they might just have completely lost it.
I do. I believe that as well. Somebody, Brian, we spoke about, me, you, and Wolf actually at the game. Danielson in the middle of the park. Now, I think she's an absolutely cracking player. Right, she I think she's brilliant with the ball. I think she looks like a proper footballer. But the one thing that we all are kind of agreed on is there just seems to be a lack of urgency with her in everything that she does. It almost reminded me of Tillman, the way that she plays the game. She's so good with the ball at her feet. She's so strong. She can hold players off, but there's never any urgency.
No, I think I spoke to Carr at Glasgow City last week about that. We both agreed. There's no urgency in her play. There's no.
But she's a cracking player.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's probably a very. You probably think she's a very good sort of playmaker in the middle of the park. Not much movement, but pinging balls left and right. But out in the wings, she just seems wasted because there doesn't seem to be an apparent urgency and pace or an attacking sort of threat. She's not got the same urgency as sort of Brogan, for example, who just faces up the fullback and attacks her, where Danielson always wants to come inside and on her right foot and, or pass it inside. There just doesn't seem to be, as you say, there's no urgency in her. And for a winger, one thing you need is urgency. And one thing you need is like electric pace, quick off 5-10 yards. And that just doesn't seem to be her. So I just don't know if she's getting played out of position or it's just not her game. I don't know, but she just seems wasted out in the wing. And I think we've said that for a wee while now.
I think you were disappointed that she started, Wolf, were you not?
I was, because if you're playing her out there, to me, you better start Lizzie Arnott out there. I mean, Lizzie does tend to come on, and she came on yesterday. But yeah, I don't. Jenny Danielson as a wide player doesn't really do it for me. If we're playing her up front in a 2, that's fine, because she's big, she's got the height.
See, Wolf can't talk and read at the same time.
No, he can't. No,
because my eyesight's absolutely perfect. But yeah, as Carl says, you need to be playing her through the middle, because she's not got the urgency for playing out wide.
Yeah.
For being a winger. She's also a centre of gravity's too high, too big. I mean, Brogan Hayes quite small, so her centre of gravity is going to be quite low. So she can do the wee flicks and tricks and get past people. Jenny Danielson's she's big. I don't know what height she is, but she must be tipping 6 foot, possibly taller than that, because she looks fairly large in there. And that's another thing that mystified me, because of the way she was playing. She was taking the corners.
Tallest player.
And the tallest player on the park taking corners. It always just.
And then she went off.
It mystifies me. Yeah.
Well, she went off, and then Mittag started taking the corners.
Yeah.
Again, one of the tallest players. And there was actually a point in the second half, I think it might have been quite close to the end of the game, Brian, and Tessel put a ball into the box, fantastic ball, and the Rangers players just couldn't get on the end of it. And you said to me, if that was Tessel in there, that would have been a goal.
Yeah.
As I said, sorry, Brian, as I said to you, Martin, if Tess had been in there, that ball wouldn't have had the quality, because she's the best quality crosser we've got at the club. So if Tess isn't taking that corner, that ball's not going where she put it, so she wouldn't have been there to put it in.
No, but it could have went in the middle of the box where Tess
could have, yeah, absolutely could have done, yeah.
I mean,
of course it could have done.
Yeah. Lizzie was always our corner kick taker.
Yeah.
And then obviously she only came late on, so she only got. I don't think she took a corner last night, but she was always the sort of corner sort of specialist, because she can take left and right footed corners. And as I said to you last night, Martin, Danielson taking a corner, tallest player, and as you say, Danielson went off, then Middock started taking them. She's the second tallest player. So you kind of think, well, there's 2 attacking threats taking corners, where it should be somebody, you want your tallest player in the box for a corner, for a start, or a free kick. So you want somebody else taking the corner, basically.
Well, there must be somebody else in that Rangers women team who can take corners. Well, it can't just be one player.
Well, the crazy thing for me is, as I say, I think Tess Middag's probably the best set piece taker we've got in the women's team, right? Now, she was on the pitch for the entire game. So if she starts taking the corners when Danielson went off, why was she not taking them when Danielson was on and putting Danielson in the middle? To make use of the height with decent delivery, because Danielson's delivery is not particularly great from corners. if she gets it past the first player, it's kind of just a hit and hope into the space. But I mean, Midag's set piece play, which I can't even say,
That's hard to say.
It's fairly decent. So stick Danielson in the middle and let Tess try and find her with it. You know. But I don't know. They're not on the training ground. They're not doing an awful lot wrong because they're getting results. I mean, they're sitting second top of the league by virtue of the fact that Glasgow City beat Thistle 4-1 today.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's still a long way to go. But it is a bit mystifying why we've got the tallest players on the park taking corners, particularly when one of them's not particularly, the delivery isn't particularly good.
So Wilf just mentioned it there, Brian. And listen, I don't mind you eating on the pod, right? But don't pick your teeth. That's so unprofessional, Brian.
There's something I know. I need to
so
floss.
Unprofessional.
I need to floss.
I know you're doing a double shift, right? But it's still no excuse. Right? That's all I'm saying. So yeah, two games, 2 draws, Brian. Not great, obviously.
No.
But no time to panic. But if you take the Glasgow City game and now the Celtic game into consideration, food for thought for McCallum?
I think so. Yeah, I think I was certainly thinking it last week, and I'm certainly thinking it this week now after watching both games now. That I really don't know what Danielson's offering that Lizzie can't. I think Lizzie offers a bit more than Danielson in the sense that she'll take on a fullback. She's a winger for a start. She'll get more. Well, she's our top scorer as well, and Lizzie always pops in with the odd, with assists as well. Penalty taker.
Sorry, Malky Thompson.
Malky, yeah.
I said
yeah, he's
that's because I read Curry Munchers and comment.
So yeah, he's that for me. I mean, I watched I think it was the cup game where Kavanagh came on and started. She got 2 goals in her debut because she had a bad. I think Carr was saying last week she had a tough start to her career because she was injured, and then.
Sorry, I just said that, Carr, because I read Curry's comment. I did say Malky Thompson.
So I think it was me. I was speaking to Carr last week. There was Kavanagh came on in our first game a few weeks ago, got 2 goals. On her debut, and she as Wolf said last night. She always caused us problems when she was at Hibs. She's always giving us a tough time, and I thought that game was perfect for her. Bit of a tenacious midfielder, tough tackling. Obviously can score goals as well. So I kind of thought that game might have been suited for her. But yeah, it's not far away, and I think as well, McCoy's having to do a lot of the donkey work up front, obviously, because Jane Ross is injured with an ACL. So there's that as well. So you've got to take that into consideration. So she's obviously.
Surely, Brian, that's even more reason to put Jenny Danielson down the middle with her.
Well, that's exactly. That's what I'm saying. Mix it up a little. Instead of playing it the same way every week. He's always got McCoy up top playing the number 9. Swap it. Put Danielson number 9 and put McCoy 10, so she drops deeper. Mix it up a little bit instead of just going the same way all the time. Is
that on Malky then, Wolf? Because at the game it was so evident that McCoy was so isolated and there wasn't much that she could do up there because there wasn't a great deal of support for her either. And then obviously they make the sub and they take her off, just bring another striker on and it's the exact same result.
Yeah, it's just it's like for like. It's not really changed anything up. I mean, it was, as we said, it was very noticeable early on in the game that Celtic had come just to make sure they left with at least a point, and they had they were sitting so deep that I was expecting to come out second half and to at least change the formation, if not the personnel, and at least put somebody else up in an attacking position, because we didn't need to have 5 in the middle of the park because they simply only had 2 or 3 in the middle of the park because the rest of them were sitting so deep defending. And obviously, when we get to the edge of their box, whoever had the ball, whether it was Kayla McCoy or any of the supporting players, they were just getting crowded out and they were just kicking the ball clear. The start of the second half, I think Celtic were hardly in our half with possession of the ball because all they did was kick it clear and get back in the shape, wait for us to come again. But we still only had like one striker up front, which was I just found it quite strange. Just I thought he would have changed it up. Same against Glasgow City. I mean, it was noticeable we said last week, Brian, that we've normally got a starting team and a finishing team, and he makes really good use of the 5 subs. But that's 2 games against the 2 better teams. He doesn't really seem to have done that. Doesn't seem to have changed it up any.
Kirsty Howitt and Caleb McCoy they seem the kind of same type of striker to me. I mean, I don't watch and I don't pretend to watch the women's team anywhere near as much as we used to do. I'm trying to get the first team, the B team, and the women's team, and I'm trying to do as much as I possibly can. So I don't get to see them as much. But when he made that sub, Brian, there was no change to the way that we played at all. Absolutely none. And Carl's saying it in the comments, Malky's subs have always been baffling.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, as you say, they're much and such like for like. As you say, it was almost just player for player. It wasn't anything tactical. It was just a set of fresh legs, and maybe possibly Kirsty would have had a couple of. I think she's more inclined to shoot from long range than Cale McCoy. So that was the only difference that I could see out of the 2 players. But as you say, it was just like for like. There was no tactical change. It was no right. You're going up front with Kayla. It was just you're replacing her. Simple as that. And it was the same tactics. So yeah. And then he was playing. Was it Maddie Knopf was playing right wing eventually at one point as well? There was a triple sub. I think Emma Watson was playing. Well, they were swapping all the time. So it was, it seemed a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? It just seemed a bit sort of, nobody sort of quite knew where they were going or what they were going to do at the end. It was just a case of get as many players in the sort of forward line as possible and kind of hope something come off rather than anything tactical.
Very, very quickly. No idea who you are. Don't know what team you support. I don't care how many people are watching. I genuinely do not care. The Rangers Rabble covers everything from the first team to the B team to the women's team. So we will continue to cover everything, whether 20 people watch or 20,000 people watch. And we're not pretending that we care. I think you'll find it well from Brian make most of the women's games, so they do care. So see if you don't like it, don't click on it. The title's there. It says Rangers Women's Show. If you don't like it, don't click on it. Honestly, I don't get some people. I honestly don't get some people. It's a sad life when you go on YouTube to find videos that you don't like and then comment on them. I've got obviously better things to do with my time than that, but obviously some people don't. So, kind of same point to you, Wolf. 2 games in a row, 2 draws, not great when you consider that, and I mean this with the greatest of respect to the rest of the teams in the league. The rest of the teams in the league, it's pretty much a case of we should show up and win, right? Comfortably, not just win comfortably. 2 teams that, we have to give our all against, that are going to cause us issues, and we failed to win.
Yeah, it's by the way, as your pal Antonio telling you to get a haircut, but that's another.
I just got a haircut.
You just got one.
Good. But no, the most worrying thing for me about these last 2 games against the only kind of 2 teams that will challenge us for the silverware really is that there've been 2 draws that we haven't really looked like winning. We've not really created loads and loads of chances. It's not as if we've been unlucky and their keepers have been brilliant, and we haven't really created an awful lot. I mean, as Brian said, when we made the substitutions yesterday, it was like for like, nothing changed. You could have had 3 centre forwards, you could have had 3 number 9s in the last 10 minutes. The ball was just wouldn't have got to them because it wasn't getting into the box. The creativity wasn't there. I don't know what the problem was. There's plenty enough decent, creative players. I mean, Emma Watson came on and made a difference. What did she get? 5-10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the game was crying out for somebody like her, Or Jodie McCleary didn't go on. Jodie McCleary, she likes nothing better than get the ball at her feet and run and create chances. Didn't get off the bench. So I do sometimes wonder what game that the coaching staff are watching. They obviously know the players better than we do, But it is quite worrying that against the teams that are going to challenge, that are challenging us for the title, we're far too conservative. We're far too risk averse. it's as if we're going into the games not wanting to get beat, and we'll take the point and worry what
Do
happens.
you, do you see a difference, Wolf? Do you see a difference in this Rangers side to last season?
In what regard?
In the way that we're playing, the decisions the management team are making. Is there any real difference, or is it kind of similar?
No, it's quite similar for me. I mean, we struggled. I mean, okay, we beat Glasgow City 5-0 about this time last year. Or was it the year before? I can't remember. It might have been. I think it was maybe this time last year. But apart from that, that's the outlier. Apart from that, the games are always tight against them and against Celtic. As I say, last season unbeaten in the league, knocked out of 2 cups with Celtic in games that was completely dominated. So it doesn't seem to have changed any. We're still dominating these games, but we're just not scoring the goals. And it must be difficult for them to try anything new when you're playing the other teams. And as you say, we're expected just to turn up and beat them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could probably put half a dozen of the teenagers in the team and still beat some of these teams further down the league, because they are still in their infancy. They're not full-time professionals. They're part-time teams, and they're obviously not of that as good a standard. So it must be really difficult to try new things. But they just don't seem to be finding anything at all against City and against Celtic, and that's got to change. I mean, they've all played each other in the last 3 weeks. City beat Celtic and then moved on with both of them. Mm-hmm. That's why we're now sitting second in the league. Now that trend can't continue, because we could still go through the season unbeaten but not win the league, because we're drawing the big games, which is games we really need to win. But we're not looking like winning them. That's the concerning thing for me. The last 2 weeks we haven't looked like winning the games. That's quite concerning.
Well, on that, and I'll give the last word to you, Brian. But Carl's put, we played last Sunday against City, so I don't know what it was, but we just weren't at it. So like I said, look, that's 2 games, 2 draws against the 2 teams that are the only 2 teams that can really give us any problems. But we are still second in the league, so there's absolutely no need at this point to panic. And you need to come off mute.
There's certainly no need to panic. We've still got to play Celtic away and Glasgow home in the reverse fixtures in the new year. So, they've got to play, Glasgow and Celtic have got to play each other as well. So that, you never know. A draw there,
And we've got a split for the first time this year as well, Brian.
Yeah. So it's, there's a lot of permutations still to come. As Wolf said, Hearts are the best of the rest just now. It's easy to say Celtic, Rangers, and Glasgow are just going to turn up and win a game against the rest. It's quite easy to say that when you look at the league table, but it doesn't necessarily. We all know sport. It doesn't necessarily happen like that all the time. So there is the chance that there was Hibs beat Celtic in the cup semi to get to the cup final that Rangers are playing. So, there is a chance for other teams to beat the top 3 as such. It's just a case of, if that team defends well and takes their chance, 1 or 2 chances when they get them, it's a long way to go. Nothing to panic about. So, it's just, if your luck's in that day, your luck's in that day. And if the team are not playing great and you manage to get the breaks, then we all know football, it's just like that. But no, it's a long way to go.
You might want to go off mute, Martin.
Yes, I was just about to say that. Yes, I'm having a go at Brian, and there's me on mute. Yeah, well, everything to play for. No
yeah,
panic.
Everything to play. No panic yet. I mean, as Brian says, we've still got these reverse fixtures, and as Carl pointed out, we've got the games after the split as well. And although the 3 teams at the top are expected to turn up and beat the other teams, you do every season get 1 or 2 kind of, how did that happen? How did they drop points here? How did they lose that? So, in case that's going to happen to us, that's why we need to really be taking wins off of Glasgow City and Celtic, so that if we do go to a Motherwell and slip up at Aberdeen or at Hearts or at Hibs, drop points there, it's not as catastrophic as it could be. Because right now, the way the league is right now, if any of the top 3 play any of the other teams and drop points, it's going to be cataclysmic
them big time.
towards the end of the season. It's going to really cost them big time.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's quite encouraging for me is obviously we've still got a few players out injured coming back. I mean, I saw just before we came on, I saw Stevie from Four Lads tweeted it was good to see Megan Bell back after her injury. She played in a bounce game today and scored a hat-trick in 45 minutes. And it's also the club captain Kathy Hill was playing for the playing with the under-19s today. I'm not sure. I don't know if that was the same game. I don't know if it was just a bounce game that they both played in, but Kathy played in that today. So she said it was good to actually get game time after 14 weeks out. So at least we're starting to get players back, and they're both key players in the team. So it's good. It's good that at least they're going in the right direction. So hopefully, when we get either or both of them back on the grass or on the plastic or whatever it is they play on, hopefully that'll make a difference to the way that we play and some of the results that we get. And the good thing is we've got time to bed them back into the team, because it is a few weeks before we play either of the big two again.
I've been reliably informed they won quite comfortably in the bounce game today.
Yeah.
It was the same game they both played in. Yeah. But a bounce game, you can't take it into a bounce game, but it was just
even it's Milner's. Even it's Milner's onto you, Brian.
I know.
I've only done it once. Right. Look, we do have to finish up. But Carl's saying if we don't win the final, I feel Malky may be treading water a bit. We don't have time to talk about that, but we will be discussing. We'll discuss that and more on next week's show. We're going to try and do this at least once a week. Obviously, time permitting for myself, Brian, and Wilf. But that is us for this week, gentlemen. So, Brian, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Wilf, thank you very much.
Cheers, boss.
Thank you to everybody in the comments, and of course, Car for keeping us right. We will need to try and get Car on a bit more, because she knows far more than I do. Imagine getting Malky Thompson and David McCallum mixed up. Honestly, I don't my like. So yeah, the bounce game, as Car said,
it wasn't a bounce game.
Well, under 18s, I should say. It was a competitive game for the under 18s. So there you go. So thank you all for watching. This was obviously supposed to be on the members channel, but me being me, I forgot to click the members button and it's went out onto YouTube. So if you are watching this for the first time and you're not a member and you do fancy seeing us discussing the women's team in a bit more depth, then please do consider becoming a channel member. Carl there, cheers for covering the women's team. It's an absolute pleasure. The Rangers Rabble does want to cover all aspects of Rangers, not just the first team. I've been to quite a few B team games now. It's amazing. You go to these games for the first 2 or 3 games, you don't know a single person's name, and then by the 4th game, boom, everybody's name's in your head. So there you go. So yeah, thank you everybody for watching, and we'll speak to you all. Oh, actually, before I go, Curry asked in the comments who'll be doing the 12:30 show tomorrow when Michael Beale gets announced. Number one, I don't know if that's going to happen. But number two, I'll know at 11:30 once I've asked everybody who's available. So that answers that question. So yeah.
Sorry, Mark, before you go, while you're on Curry, he's saying that I'm not dedicated. I do a pod on the Rangers Sabutio. Where's he been? We've done, how many Sabutio pods have we done now? What, 3 or 4 pods in the Rangers Sabutio team. Come on, Curry, get with the programme.
If it's Rangers related, we shall talk about it. So yeah. So thank you everybody for watching, and we shall speak to you all again, hopefully very, very soon.